Good morning, this is Jack from Charting Markets, and this is the pre-market webinar for the morning of Wednesday, the 29th of October. My disclaimer, I do this for educational purposes only. I'm here to share my technical analysis with you. I hope you can take some of what I'm doing, learn from and transfer it to your own charts. I'm not here to issue trading signals. This is a video for paying subscribers at chartingthemarkets.substack.com. It's published on YouTube after a delay of 24 hours. All right, great. Let's have a look at the ES chart. Now, one thing I was expecting to see yesterday was some negative divergence, and we've got it. We've got a 60-minute sell signal fixed on ES. We've got another one fixed on NQ. We already had one fixed on YM, which managed not to fail yesterday, even though it went up a lot. And RTY, obviously, we had one fixed first here, and obviously that is more than made target. Nothing on DAX and ESTX. ESTX, we've got a nice-looking potential level top set up here. DAX is thinking about it and kicking around the daily middle band at the moment. All right, let's have a look at the bigger picture charts. Okay, SPX was pretty close to the the 3SD upper band again yesterday. Qs was almost, was basically touched it again for a second day. Dia again was pretty close to it. We're really in a situation where we should expect to see some consolidation here. We've got the sell signals for it today, and today is the only bearish leading day of this week, historically. So I'm kind of expecting to see some consolidation action today. I would say there are some big things happening at the moment. I was showing yesterday in my post a chart which was hang on. A chart basically of the daily action on S&P from 1928 to 2024, and this is the average daily action in an average year. And this is basically just showing that the November and December are two of the most reliably, as a pair, really are the two most reliably bullish months of the year. We'll see how that goes, but obviously I've been looking for a large retracement, but I'm starting to lose a bit of hope. We are wildly overbought by historical standards, but it doesn't mean the high is here. But we will see how that goes. We got some big news coming through the pipe. The Fed may be cutting interest rates, although honestly I'm not really seeing what base, apart from the economy slowing. There's not much basis for that. Certainly inflation has been going up for most of the year so far, and is well above the 2% target. We've also got the Chinese negotiations, which may well produce a result within a few days. It does look like the Chinese tariffs, which were scheduled to go on November the 1st, aren't going to go in, and it may be that a decent deal is done. We will see how that goes, but that's some big news over the next week. Obviously, we've got the government shutdown. That is not going awesomely well. They're up for 47 days, so basically at the moment they're forecasting that will end slightly more than halfway through November. And obviously it doesn't need to extend an awful lot further to start getting through to Thanksgiving, which will cause a lot of pain for a lot of people, because a lot of people are suffering because they're not getting their paychecks or their SNAP, or so we will see. But we've got some big news coming, so we don't know what impact that will have. We will see. But in terms of the shorter term, on the hourly charts, we're looking very overbought on SPX, but no current negative divergence. We've got up to the obvious target trend line, so I've redrawn the wedge accordingly to show it as unbroken. And we've got a 15-minute RSI 14 sell signal fix. We've got another one of those on Qs. We've got another one of those on Dia. In terms of the trend line targets here, we've gone through the first one, and we've gone to the secondary one that I was noting. I do have a possible third one. It's really not of the same quality. This is the obvious trend line to fail at. In terms of Dia, we've broken over the first one. We haven't made it up to the second. We have got, sorry, I'm just going to draw in the arrows here. I forgot earlier when I was doing this. It's so we have got weak sell signals fixed on the hourly chart on Dia, RSI 14 and RSI 5, but they are only weak sell signals. So we will see how that goes. But really, I'm looking for some consolidation here. We would normally see that, but we've got some wild news coming in. So This is that we may well find that there's a lot of reaction to the news, and we don't know, obviously, what that news will be. For instance, if the Fed doesn't cut interest rates here, which would be entirely understandable, we may well have a large negative reaction. Okay, IWM on the daily chart. We haven't quite made it back up to the retest of the high, and I'm still thinking it might well need to. Nothing on the hourly chart. I wasn't really expecting to see more than the retest of the high here. This is most of the rise this week has been on tech. And IWM doesn't have much tech in it. So really, it's been largely oblivious. On the 15-minute chart, only an old 15 RSI 14 sell signal, which I'd called, even though it didn't quite make the target. Looking at DAX, DAX is struggling at the daily middle band. Closed yesterday below it. It's struggling to get it back above. If we are going to see any kind of retracement here that lasts more than a day, then this is a good opportunity to head back to support in the 50 MA area and possibly lower. And I've got that at 23,993. Looking at Nikkei, we're still holding this flag resistance here. I'm wondering if this might hold, and I do have a possible daily RSI 14 sell signal here. So we will see what the news brings. Okay, looking at DX. DX. We are heading back up higher a bit towards the flag resistance. I'd quite like to see that break up and get back up to here, because bigger picture, I think we're probably on the way back, or in a rally on the way back to 104. ZB, little weak 6-minute sell signal, hasn't done much, got most of the way to target. So I am thinking a large top maybe forming here. I am wondering if we're going to see a retest of the high before that starts playing out. ZN, pretty much the same. But looking at we've got an inflection point here at these highs, and I'm leaning towards bonds going down again. CL, we've got a weak 6-minute buy signal fixed. Hasn't really delivered a lot so far, but I am wondering about a retest of this high on HO. Possible head and shoulders forming, actually. I think there's an argument here that the head and shoulders has already broken down. Just putting that in as a lean at the moment, but I am wondering about some more downside. I'm not convinced that the low is in on oil yet, but we could have it. One thing I was talking about sorry, still suffering from a cold a bit. One thing I was wondering about on the bigger picture webinar this morning was that we could be looking that the trigger for oil going back to 100 might actually be the collapse of Russia, which I think I'm expecting really to see economically to happen in the next year, very possibly including regime change as well. The reasons for that are basically money, oil prices, and the fact that really they're losing the war in Ukraine and they can't afford the war anyway. They never expected to be at war for as long as they are. They have been, and they're running out. Okay, and the USSR, of course, didn't fail for any particularly complex political reason. It fell really because they ran out of money. RBOB, 6-minute sell signals reached possible near miss target. This kind of looks like a bull flag here. So is leaning longer. Overall, these are leaning longer, although HO, that is a possible head and shoulders that's formed there, and actually it's not bad and broken down. Looking at NG, NG has continued down below the monthly pivot. I've got a possible head and shoulder target down here in about the 3.69 area. We'll see how that goes. We've also got a possible 6-minute buy signal break. We've got on GC, we've got a head and shoulders that's broken down, and we've got one that's broken down on SI. We've got one that's broken down on Palladium. The real question here is whether these are going to reject directly back up into the high or continue down to these targets. Keeping an open mind on that, this is an inflection point. The weak 60-minute buy signal on gold has reached the possible near miss target. Looking at SI, again, the double top. Will it fail or will it continue down? Palladium, will it fail or will it continue down? Platinum, keeping an open mind. Doesn't really look much like anything at the moment, but the closest thing it looks towards is a bear flag here, so we'll see how that goes. HG, I'd like to see this go a little higher and do a full retest of this high, although we almost made it here. That would just improve the double top here. I think this is likely a double top forming. Looking just quickly on USD JPY, we've got a 6-minute buy signal fixed. USD CAD, we've got a 6-minute buy signal fixed. These are supporting DX going higher. USD CAD hasn't made the head and shoulder target, but the IHS target on Australian dollar has been made overnight. Again, if it's going to pull back from there, that's supportive of the dollar going up, but only mildly because I don't think the Australian dollar's in the dollar index. Not a lot to see on NZ, KC. KC, I'm leaning towards this being a double top. We've got a rising megaphone here. It has broken down. I'm leaning towards it heading towards double top support, which I've got down here in about the 349 area. We will see how that goes. But I'm liking the downside from here. SB, this is a possible breakdown. We've got a 6-minute buy signal fixed. It's not irrevocable. But if we continue sliding down here, then really I'd be looking for a target in the 8 area. I've got a head and shoulders which is pointing down into that area. Wondering about that. 60-minute buy signal here. We'll see whether that delivers anything. CC. CC, this as soon as I rolled this into March, I got this lovely falling megaphone, which was not nearly as nice on December, and of course a perfect touch at resistance. We've got a rising support trend line here, which is broken. I think this is breaking back towards a retest this low here in the 5700 area, and very possibly is going to head down into this trend line here, which I've got in about the 5200 area. We'll see how that goes. CT. Still got an open target above in the 6570 area. Looks as though we might be making it at the open. I'm liking the upside on this, but there is a serious risk that we could go down. We're kind of at a big inflection point on the daily chart. On the lumber chart, we've got we had a likely bear flag form here and fail. We had a buy signal here which has failed. And this has broken down towards a retest of the September low and is pretty close to it. My lean is we'll probably continue down from there. ZW. This has made some real progress to the upside and is actually testing resistance on a big double bottom that you can't really see on this chart. So I'm thinking we may continue higher here. We have got a 60-minute sell signal fixed. We might see some retracement on corn. I was looking for this to break a trend line on the daily chart, and it's done it. Both of these, I've been talking about these as possible candidates for really good performance next year. Both of these have got nice looking bottoming setups, which are starting to look very promising. Soy. This has hit flag resistance on the bear flag that's been forming all year. So I'm leaning towards the downside. 60-minute sell signal is fixed here. Heading towards targets. The big news that could happen on here is that the Chinese could start buying soy, and that could have significant impact to the upside and break it out of the bear flag. On ZL, we've got a bear flag which is broken down with a target and a retest of the September low. On live cattle, I think this big move here has mainly been about the proposal to import beef from Argentina. Personally, I think the opposition to that is so great that that may actually not go ahead, in which case we could see this reversed. Waiting to see what that develops there. On lean hogs, we are continuing lower here. We had a double bottom setup. If we are just expanding the wedge and we're heading to support, then I've got that down in about the 79 area. We'll see how that goes, or a little lower, possibly as low as 78.5. Okay, great. Let's have a look at questions. Yeah, the PayPal worked out. That was a nice test. Thank you, mate, because I needed to sort that out before I sent out all the other notifications I sent out yesterday. So many thanks for that. All right, great. So I think that's a wrap. Everyone take care. I'll catch everyone tomorrow. And looking for some pullback on equities today. We've got all the signals for it, but obviously the action's been pretty wild. And obviously we may get a lot of news today. All right, take care.